The blow landed before Amanda could even scream. Her father's fist crashed against her cheek, sending her sprawling to the floor. Pain exploded in her face, metallic blood filling her mouth. "You think you can starve me?" he spat, kicking her in the ribs. "You hid money for alcohol and weed from your father?" Amanda gasped, curling into herself, but the kicks kept coming. "I asked for one thing," he shouted, staggering above her, his voice thick with alcohol. "One bottle. And you refused me." He grabbed her hair, yanking her head back until tears spilled down her bruised face. His breath reeked of liquor as his eyes darkened with something worse than rage. "If you won't give me money," his voice dropped, low and venomous, "then you'll give me something else." "You will give me this sexy body, Amanda," he roared. Her stomach twisted in horror. His rough hands tore at her blouse, his body pressing closer, his laugh hollow and cruel. "No," Amanda thrashed, desperation flooding her veins. "Don't touch me." Her hand groped blindly until it found the nearest object, a cracked glass bottle on the floor. With a wild scream, she swung. The bottle smashed against his head, blood spraying as he collapsed with a groan. Amanda didn't look back.
She ran.
Out the door, into the night, her bare feet pounding the street. Behind her, she heard him stirring, cursing, calling her name. Her chest heaved, tears blinding her, when suddenly bright, golden light spilling from an enormous glass hall. Banners shimmered in silver letters. Selection of the mother of future heir of the Lord of Shadows. Her father's silhouette staggered at the far end of the street, searching. Amanda's breath caught. Without hesitation, she darted into the hall and slipped behind a line of women in glittering gowns. Bruised, bloody, terrified. She didn't belong here. But fate had just dragged her into the one place no one, not even her father, would dare follow. The world of the Lord of Shadows. Amanda pressed herself behind one of the women, her chest still heaving. The hall glittered with wealth she had never seen before, crystal chandeliers, velvet carpets, guards in black suits whose eyes were colder than steel. The women around her stood tall, flawless in their gowns, painted lips trembling as they whispered to one another. And then, silence. Boots echoed on the marble floor as a man stepped forward. Tall, sharp, dressed in black from head to toe. His presence alone made the air heavy. The right hand of the Lord of Shadows. Everyone in the room lowered their heads. Everyone except Amanda. She was still gasping, blood drying at the corner of her lip, her torn blouse hanging awkwardly from her shoulder.
She didn't bow.
She couldn't. The man's gaze swept over the line of women like a blade, rejecting them with the smallest tilt of his head. Too fragile, too eager, too afraid. Then his eyes stopped. On her, Amanda stiffened. Her bruises told a story. Her torn clothes screamed she didn't belong. And yet her eyes, they were steady, defiant. The eyes of someone who had stared hell in the face and still refused to break. The other women sneered, whispering, but the man's lips curved into something between a smirk and a verdict. He stepped closer, his voice calm, deep, final. "This one." The room gasped. Amanda's heart stopped. "She?" One of the women burst out. They all looked at Amanda in confusion. How was she qualified? But the right hand didn't waver. He looked at Amanda as though he had already seen the end of her story. The Lord of Shadows needs someone like her. She seems tough for the Lord of Shadows' dynamism. Pain wouldn't seem to break her. It will fuel her. She will carry his heir, and do it well. Guards moved instantly, surrounding Amanda. Her pulse thundered as they pulled her from the line, the women's envious stares stabbing into her skin. Amanda stumbled, her voice breaking. "Wait, I'm not supposed to." But it was too late. The decision had been made. And as they led her deeper into the glittering hall, towards the unknown, towards the man the world feared most, Amanda glanced once over her shoulder. Through the glass doors, she saw him. Her father.
Staggering. Searching.
His bloodied face twisted in fury. But the doors closed before his eyes could find hers. Amanda exhaled, her body trembling. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just running from him. She was being pulled into something even darker, into the world of the Lord of Shadows. Amanda sat stiffly in the back seat, her bruised arms wrapped tightly around herself. She could still hear her father's voice in her head, slurred and cruel. The sting of his hands hadn't faded, and yet here she was, pulled into something she didn't understand. Her eyes flicked to the crisp envelope on the seat beside her, the one with bold, gold lettering. Selection of the mother of the future heir, House of Shadows. She let out a shaky laugh. How on earth did I get here?
Me?
Out of all people. Amanda rubbed the corner of her sleeve against a smear of dried blood on her cheek. Her thoughts spiraled. The Lord of Shadows, who even is he? A man who thinks women are machines to make him a son? She bit her lip, her heart pounding as fear twisted into something stranger. Curiosity. What kind of man hides behind a name like that? And why do I feel like I'm about to meet the devil himself? The car turned sharply, and through the window, she saw it. The gates rising like black steel against the night sky. Her chest tightened. She had no idea whether she was running towards salvation or into another prison. But one thing she knew. She'd rather face the devil himself than the monster waiting for her back home. Amanda's eyes widened as she looked up at the towering gates and the vast fortress of glass and steel. The place radiated wealth, but not the kind that dazzled. It warned. 2 guards dragged the doors open, and there he was. Young, the Lord of Shadows. He stood at the top of the staircase, hands in his pockets, his suit tailored to perfection. Cold eyes that had seen blood and built empires scanned the new arrival with disdain. Amanda swallowed hard but refused to look away. The manager bowed low. My lord, I present. Young's voice cut through the air, deep and sharp as a blade. What is this? His gaze swept Amanda from head to toe, the torn blouse, the fading bruises, the defiance in her stare.
His jaw tightened.
You bring me an escaped prisoner, he spat, his voice laced with venom, and expect her to produce my heir? The room froze. Guards stiffened. Even the manager lowered his head. She dusted her torn sleeve with a dramatic sigh. Well, at least I upgraded prisons. The room stilled. Her lips twitched, half nervous, half defiant. She wasn't trying to be funny, it just slipped out. But the shock in the guard's eyes made her realize what she'd done. And then, Young's lips curved ever so slightly. Not quite a smile, but something close enough to unsettle everyone in the room. Interesting, he murmured, his eyes still locked on her. Then, colder. Run a background check. His assistant, a wiry man with glasses, nodded briskly and disappeared into another room. The tension lingered as Amanda stood in the center, surrounded by eyes that begged her to shut up before she got herself killed. But she only folded her arms and lifted her chin, her smirk refusing to fade. Minutes later, the assistant returned, holding a thin folder. My lord, he said carefully, her name is Amanda Okafor. She holds down 4, sometimes 5 jobs. Waitress, store clerk, laundry, night cashier. Independent, hardworking. Every paycheck she earns goes into one place, supporting her father. The assistant hesitated before adding, there is no record of crime. Nothing but survival. Young's expression hardened. He said nothing, but his gaze flicked back to Amanda, sharp and unreadable. Amanda met his stare with that same sass, lips curving.
See?
Not a prisoner. Just your average overworked, underpaid superhero with a very bad taste in fathers. The manager stiffened, waiting for Young's wrath. The guards exchanged nervous glances. But Young only leaned back in his chair, his eyes still on her, as though testing just how far her courage would stretch. Amanda barely remembered the hours after arriving at the mansion. Nurses swarmed her, cleaning the blood from her skin, pressing cool cloths to her bruises. A hot bath. A meal she didn't have to cook. A bed softer than clouds. For the first time in forever, she closed her eyes and the world didn't smell of alcohol or fists.
But peace didn't last.
The private room was cloaked in low light, the air thick with the smell of cigars and expensive liquor. Young sat across from a man in a tailored suit, their conversation sharp, clipped, numbers, alliances, shadows. Then, the door creaked open. Amanda leaned against the frame, her oversized shirt falling just short of her thighs, her long legs catching the faint glow of the chandelier. Her skin glowed, her hair tumbled in loose waves, and her mischievous eyes locked with Young's. "What are you doing here?" Young's voice was low, cold, cutting through the room. Amanda tilted her head, resting a hand on her waist. "I was just passing by," she said, her lips tugging into a teasing smile. The business partner turned and froze. His gaze dragged over her like she was a painting he couldn't stop staring at. "Damn, who's this diva?" he breathed, leaning back in his chair. Amanda raised her brows, flashing a small wave. "I'm Amanda." Young's jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed at the man, then at Amanda, who didn't move, didn't flinch, as if she enjoyed the fire she had just thrown gasoline on. The man smirked, his voice dropping lower. "She's stunning. Tell me, Amanda, would it be too much if I asked for your number?" The silence that followed was dangerous. Young's chair scraped against the floor as he stood abruptly, his hand slamming the table hard enough to rattle the glasses. "No," he said, his voice thunderous. "You can't. And our business," his gaze burned into the man's face, "is over." He didn't wait for a response. In 2 strides he was at Amanda's side, his hand clamping around her wrist. Her smirk only deepened as he dragged her out of the room. The door slammed shut behind them. In the hallway, Young turned sharply, pinning her against the wall, not with his body, but with his glare. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" His voice was harsh, heavy with anger. Amanda blinked up at him, feigning innocence. "What?" "I was only passing by." "You let him look at you like that?" His eyes flicked down at her shirt, then back up, his jaw clenched. "You enjoyed it." Amanda's smile grew slow, wickedly soft.
"Why?"
"Did it bother you?" His silence was louder than shouting. Amanda tilted her head, whispering, her eyes meeting his with a spark that left no room for pretense. "Almost felt like you were jealous, Lord of Shadows. In your dreams, I just detest people who lack control. That was my business partner, and you are the one I'm paying to carry my heir." Young's voice was cool, his words precise. "You will conceive my heir through artificial insemination. No intimacy. No entanglements. You will live here under my terms until the child is born. Every rule I set, you obey. Do you understand?" Amanda's fingers brushed the papers. The language was cold, stripped of feeling. Just business. She swallowed, steadying her voice. "So, basically, I'm a guest with conditions." The manager shifted nervously, but Young's gaze didn't waver. "You are not a guest. You are a vessel of duty." Amanda's chest tightened, but she picked up the pen anyway. Staring at the millions of ones she was going to be paid for producing his heir, her hand trembled for only a moment before she scrawled her name at the bottom. The deal was sealed. The hospital. The next morning, the black convoy cut through the city until they arrived at a private hospital wing. Everything smelled sterile, the walls too white, too clean. A doctor in a crisp coat guided Amanda into a private room. She explained briskly. Initial tests, blood work, ultrasound, hormone injections to prepare Amanda's body. "Timing, we will track your cycle carefully," the doctor said. "The insemination must happen at the right window." Procedure, a thin catheter would deliver the Lord of Shadows' sperm sample directly into your uterus. Amanda listened in silence, her stomach tight. She lay back on the reclined chair as the nurse prepared the instruments. The procedure was quick, almost too quick. A pinch, a pressure, and it was over. The doctor peeled off her gloves and smiled softly. "Now, we wait. In 2 weeks, we'll test to confirm if it worked." Amanda exhaled, her heart pounding. 2 weeks. 2 weeks to know if her life had just changed forever. Through the glass partition, she caught sight of Young. Hands in his pockets, his gaze unreadable, he looked at her as though she was already carrying his legacy. Amanda looked away, her voice barely above a whisper, more to herself than anyone else. Guess my life is on pause for 2 weeks. The doctor noted her vitals, the nurses cleaned up, and the guards escorted her back to the car. The procedure was done. The waiting had begun. 2 weeks crawled by inside the mansion. Amanda had lived under watchful eyes, her every move shadowed by guards and silent maids. This morning felt different. The nurses had woken her early, guiding her back to the hospital. Blood was drawn. Samples tested. She tried not to bite her nails as she waited in the sterile white room. The doctor returned with a thin sheet of paper in her hands. She glanced between Amanda and the man standing at the glass partition. "Miss Amanda," the doctor said gently, "congratulations. You're pregnant." The words sank in like a stone dropped into water. Amanda blinked, her hands instinctively pressing against her stomach. She looked up at the glass, and there he was, Jay Young, still as stone, his eyes fixed on her. Her throat tightened. She wanted to laugh, cry, scream, all at once. Instead, her lips curved into the smallest, wobbliest smile. "Well, I guess this makes it official. I'm carrying the heir of the Lord of Shadows." The room was quiet, heavy. The manager looked relieved. The nurses bowed their heads. But Jay Young didn't move. He only turned away, his voice cold, clipped. "Prepare the mansion. She will remain under constant care. No mistakes." She was carrying a child. His child. And for reasons she couldn't explain, the thought both terrified her and gave her a strange, dangerous sense of power. Amanda clung to the edge of the bathroom sink, her body trembling as another wave of nausea hit her. She groaned, pressing her forehead against the cool marble. Pregnancy, she had quickly learned, was less glowing and more gagging. Her hair stuck to her damp cheeks when the door swung open. Heavy footsteps crossed the tiled floor. Jay Young. He stood there, frowning, his presence filling the room like a storm. For a moment, he just stared at her. This small, stubborn woman doubled over, fighting her body. Amanda lifted her head weakly, her voice hoarse, but edged with sass. "Don't just stand there, Lord of Shadows. Hand me some water, unless glaring is your cure for nausea." Silence. Then, without a word, he reached for the glass on the counter, filled it, and held it out to her. Amanda took it, her lips brushing the rim before she whispered, half smiling despite herself. "Didn't think you'd actually listen." Jay Young's eyes narrowed. "You're carrying my heir. I don't have the luxury of ignoring you." Cold words. But the way he steadied the glass in her trembling hands said something else. Amanda drank, her chest rising and falling, then leaned back against the wall, exhausted but strangely comforted. She smirked faintly, her voice soft. "Careful. Keep this up and people might mistake you for human." The manager, lingering nervously outside the door, nearly choked on air. No one teased the Lord of Shadows. But Jay Young didn't answer. He simply set the glass down, adjusted his cuffs, and walked out with the same cold precision as always. Yet Amanda felt it, the smallest shift. A crack in the armor of the man everyone feared. The police station buzzed with chatter and shuffling papers. Officers came and went, carrying case files, sipping cheap coffee. At the front desk, Mr. Simon, Amanda's father, leaned forward with a trembling act of desperation. His clothes were cleaner than usual, his hair slicked back with too much oil. He even smelled faintly of soap, something rare for him. "Amanda," he said, voice breaking. "My daughter. She's gone missing." The officer behind the desk glanced up. "Name and age." "Amanda Simon," he answered smoothly, his tone rehearsed. "She's 24. My only daughter." He let out a heavy sigh, even dabbing at his eyes with a crumpled handkerchief. "She's such a good girl, hardworking. She takes care of me. I'm worried sick." The officer typed notes, his face softening at the display of fatherly grief. "When was the last time you saw her?" The man's jaw tightened, but he forced his voice into a shaky whisper. 2 nights ago. She didn't come home. Pleased she's all I have." Behind the mask of tears and worry, his thoughts were venomous. Amanda had shamed him, run away after raising her hand against him. Now she was probably hiding somewhere and he would make sure she paid for it. The officer gave a reassuring nod. "We'll file a missing persons report. If we get any leads, you'll be contacted." He clutched the paper form with trembling hands, bowing deeply in gratitude, playing the part of a heartbroken father. But as he stepped outside the station, his eyes hardened, no trace of tears left. "Run as far as you like, Amanda," he muttered under his breath. "I'll drag you back myself." The mansion was quiet, moonlight slipping through tall glass windows. Amanda, in her first trimester, sat cross-legged on the velvet couch in the lounge, hugging a pillow, her eyes glued to the ceiling like she was solving the mysteries of the universe. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "Spicy pickles with strawberry jam." The maid carrying a tray froze mid-step, horrified. Pardon, miss?" Amanda groaned dramatically, flopping sideways on the couch. "I need it.
Now."
If I don't get it, your Lord of Shadows will have a very pregnant, very angry woman on his hands." The maid stammered something and rushed out, clearly panicked. Moments later, Jae Young entered, hands in his pockets, irritation etched on his face. "What nonsense did I just hear? Pickles and jam." Amanda sat up, eyes gleaming mischievously. "Not nonsense. Cravings. And if you don't feed me, Lord of Shadows, your heir might come out hating you." His jaw tightened. "That's not how biology works." "Try telling that to my stomach," she shot back, patting her belly. For a long beat, his piercing gaze lingered on her. Amanda expected him to snap, maybe order her to be quiet. Instead, he turned on his heel, muttering, "Ridiculous woman." Half an hour later, a plate appeared in front of her. Pickles.
Jam.
Arranged neatly. Amanda blinked, then slowly looked up. Jae Young was standing there, arms crossed, expression unreadable. She dipped a pickle into the jam, took a bite, and closed her eyes in bliss. Who knew the Lord of Shadows had a future in catering? His frown deepened. "Don't push your luck." But when she laughed, it wasn't just her. The guards, the maids, everyone nearby fought back smiles. For once, the mansion didn't feel cold. Jae Young lingered in the doorway a moment longer than necessary, his eyes fixed not on her face, but on her stomach, the heir she carried. In his world, heirs weren't born out of love. They were weapons, shields, proof of strength. His rivals already paraded their sons before the Council of Shadows, heirs ready to inherit empires of blood. Behind his back, whispers grew louder. The Lord of Shadows has no heir. He is vulnerable, replaceable. Without a child, his dynasty would fracture. Allies would turn to enemies, his throne carved apart by men who once bowed to him. Betrayal didn't come from the outside in his world. It came from within. That was why the heir mattered. It wasn't sentiment. It wasn't family. It was survival.
Continuity. Power.
And yet, listening to Amanda's laugh, something strange tugged at him. For a fleeting moment, the heir didn't feel like a shield or a pawn. It felt human. He clenched his jaw, crushing the thought before it could bloom. With a sharp turn, he left the lounge, footsteps echoing like thunder down the corridor. But Amanda, licking jam from her fingers, had already noticed. The great Lord of Shadows had flinched. The mansion was quiet. Too quiet. Amanda lay in her bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling as the minutes bled into hours. She turned left.
Right.
Flipped her pillow. Pulled the blanket over her head. Nothing. Sleep refused to come. Her body was tired, but her mind raced. Every sound in the vast mansion echoed louder at night. Her heart thumped, restless. Finally, she sat up with a groan. If I'm going to suffer, I'm dragging him into it too. Barefoot, she padded through the hallways, her silk nightgown brushing her ankles, until she stood before the large, imposing doors of Jae Young's chambers. For a moment, she hesitated. Waking the Lord of Shadows at midnight sounded like a suicidal idea. But her impatience won. She pushed the door open. Jae Young lay in bed, sharp features softened by sleep, though his presence still filled the room like steel. Amanda tiptoed closer, then whispered, "Hey, Lord of Shadows." No response. She bit her lip, then leaned down, shaking his shoulder. "Wake up. I can't sleep." His eyes snapped open instantly, cold and alert, like a predator stirred from slumber. He caught her wrist in one swift motion, his voice a low growl. "What are you doing in here?" Amanda blinked, caught between guilt and defiance. "Relax. I'm not here to stab you in your sleep. I just can't sleep at all." He released her, sitting up with a sigh, rubbing his temple. His gaze swept over her, the flushed cheeks, the tired eyes, the restless energy. "That is not my problem," he muttered, voice edged with irritation. Amanda crossed her arms, pouting like a stubborn child. "Well, it feels like your problem now. You're the one who put me in this situation." His eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" She tapped her stomach pointedly. "This little heir you're so obsessed with? He's making me restless. So, technically, it's your fault." Silence stretched between them. Then, with an exasperated sigh, Jae Young threw the covers aside and stood. "You're insufferable." Amanda grinned faintly. He ignored her, walked to a cabinet, and returned with a small porcelain cup. He poured warm tea from a kettle left on the side table, then handed it to her. She blinked, surprised. "You keep tea by your bed?" His tone was flat, as if it were obvious. "Sleep is a weapon, and a weapon must be maintained." Amanda sipped the tea, the warmth soothing her throat, and muttered with a small smile, "You're a strange man, Mr. Jae Young. But thank you." His gaze lingered on her, not with cold scrutiny, but with something unreadable. He looked almost human. She yawned softly, sinking onto the edge of his bed, the tea still in her hand. "Don't worry. I won't hog your sheets. I just needed company." Jae Young stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head. Amanda's eyelids grew heavy as the tea warmed her from the inside. She tried to fight it, tried to keep teasing him, but the exhaustion won. Her head tilted to the side, her cheek resting against the edge of Jae Young's bed. Within minutes, her breaths evened out. She had fallen asleep. Jae Young stood over her, arms crossed, his sharp features caught in the silver glow of the moon. For a long moment, he didn't move. He simply watched, the stubborn woman who barged into his room at midnight, now curled up like a child, her face softened in sleep.
His jaw tightened.
He should wake her, send her back to her room. That was the logical thing to do. But logic slipped away as he bent down, carefully sliding one arm beneath her knees, the other supporting her back. She stirred faintly, mumbling something incoherent, but didn't wake. He lifted her easily, surprised by how light she felt. Fragile even. With quiet steps, he laid her gently on the bed. For a second, he straightened, ready to step away. But then he saw her shiver, the silk of her nightgown offering no warmth against the chill of the room. Without a word, he pulled the blanket over her shoulders. Amanda sighed in her sleep, curling into the warmth, a faint smile ghosting across her lips. Jae Young lingered, his gaze tracing her features, so different from the women who had bowed before him in fear. This one wasn't afraid. This one laughed. This one kept barging past his walls as if they didn't exist. With one last look, the Lord of Shadows returned to his chair by the window, sitting in silence, the moonlight painting him in shades of steel and shadow. But the image of her sleeping peacefully in his bed refused to leave his mind. The mansion had become a battlefield. Chefs wept quietly in the kitchen as Amanda sent back 3 dishes in a row.
Too salty. Too plain.
Too suspicious. Guards groaned as she ordered them to fetch impossible cravings at ungodly hours. Sweet rice cakes from a market across town, chocolate imported from Switzerland, and once fried chicken with mango sauce. But the one who bore the most weight was Jae Young himself. He, who was feared by empires, found himself standing in the middle of the dining hall at midnight, holding a plate of sliced apples because Amanda refused to eat unless he brought them personally. The Lord of Shadows, reduced to a reluctant butler. And when it came to her nights, she made the mansion even louder. Sleep didn't come easily anymore, and Amanda decided she hated the silence of her own room. So one night, clutching her pillow and dragging a blanket behind her like a stubborn child, she marched into Jae Young's chambers. He looked up from his desk, brows arching at the sight of her. "Do you plan to sleep with me?" Amanda dropped the pillow onto his bed, frowning.
Yo.
"Don't flatter yourself. I don't like Korean men. My type is an African man with rich melanin skin." Jae Young blinked in genuine surprise. Amanda climbed onto the mattress, wrapping herself in the blanket. She yawned, snuggling deeper into the pillow. "And yet here I am. Admit it, you like having me here." Silence. Jae Young's eyes narrowed, but he didn't send her away. Instead, he turned off the lamp and slipped into the other side of the bed, the distance between them sharp and deliberate. Amanda smirked in the dark.
See?
"You didn't even argue. That means I'm right." He exhaled slowly, his voice low and cold. "You are the most infuriating woman I've ever met." Amanda closed her eyes, smiling to herself. "Good night, roommate." And though Jae Young lay stiffly on his side, staring at the ceiling, he couldn't deny it. Her breathing beside him filled the room with a strange comfort. A comfort he wasn't sure he wanted but couldn't push away. Sunlight spilled into the room, painting golden streaks across the sheets. Amanda stirred first, stretching with a satisfied groan. She rolled over, only to see Jae Young sitting at the edge of the bed, his shirt unbuttoned. She squinted at him. "Do you ever sleep? Or do you just brood all night?" His sharp gaze flicked toward her. "If you weren't so loud, maybe I'd have slept better." Amanda gasped dramatically, clutching her blanket. Amanda paused, widening her eyeballs.
Loud.
"Yes," he said seriously, sitting up and pointing at her. "You snore. Like a baby tiger." "I don't snore," she said flatly, hugging her pillow. "Your lies can't change the reality." Jae Young stood by the dresser, fastening the last buttons of his crisp white shirt, the faint veins of his hands flexing as he worked each button with practiced precision. A loose strand of black hair fell forward, brushing his forehead, softening the usual sharpness of his face. Amanda froze, her eyes trailing over him before she could stop herself. Her lips parted, then pressed together as she bit down gently, heat rushing to her cheeks. "Damn," she whispered under her breath, barely audible. "He's so hot." A knock sounded. A maid entered with a tray of breakfast, bowing low. "My lord, Miss Amanda's meal." The tray was elaborate, steaming rice porridge, grilled fish, fresh fruit. Amanda wrinkled her nose.
No, not that.
"I want pancakes, with chocolate, and pickles on the side." The maid froze, eyes wide, uncertain what to do. Jae Young's voice cut through the air, low and commanding. "Get her what she wants." The maid bowed quickly and fled. Amanda tilted her head, studying him, a sly smile spreading across her lips. "I think I'm getting familiar with the woman-weird cravings." Amanda chuckled, leaning back against the pillows. The mansion gates creaked open as a black sedan slowed to a stop. A pair of men in plain suits stepped out, flashing their badges at the guards. "Seoul Police Department. We're conducting inquiries about a missing woman. Her name is Amanda Simon. 24, dark-skinned, distinctive scar on her left arm." The guard stiffened. One immediately reached for his phone to alert the manager. Within minutes, the Lord of Shadow's right-hand man appeared. His expression was polite, but his eyes were cold. "There's no one by that name here," he said smoothly. "This is private property. If you have business, you'll need a warrant." The officers exchanged a glance but handed him a flyer before leaving. The moment they were gone, the flyer found its way into Jae Young's hands. Upstairs, Amanda was curled on the sofa, a blanket draped over her shoulders. She popped a pickle into her mouth and chased it with a spoonful of strawberry ice cream, humming happily. When Jae Young entered, his gaze locked onto her. "The police are looking for you." Amanda froze, the spoon halfway to her lips. "The police?" "Yes." He dropped the flyer onto the table in front of her. Her father's staged photo of grief stared back at her. Amanda's hands trembled slightly, but she quickly hid it by shoving the spoon into her mouth. He must have gone to them, pretending to be some poor, worried father. She giggled loudly. Typical. Jae-young studied her quietly. Her eyes betrayed more than her words. Fear, anger, pain all tangled beneath her brave front. He finally spoke, his tone sharp, decisive. From this moment, you don't step outside the mansion without me. Amanda blinked, then smirked faintly to cover her unease. Oh, is that because I'm carrying your heir, or because you care about my safety? His expression didn't shift. What do you think it is? Because I'm carrying your heir, Amanda answered flatly. Good. He turned away. Amanda caught the way his hand lingered on the flyer just a little too long before crumpling it. The shadow of her father was closing in, and she knew it. Months later, in the quiet of his study, Jae-young sat on the leather couch, laptop balanced on his knee. The glow of the screen reflected off his sharp features as his fingers flew over the keyboard. The door creaked open. Amanda slipped in, barefoot, her belly wrapped in a loose dress. She dragged a stool closer and plopped down in front of him, staring pointedly at his face. He didn't look up. What do you want? A massage, she said sweetly, lifting one foot in the air like a queen, offering it to a servant. His eyes flicked briefly to her foot before returning to his screen. No. Amanda gasped. What do you mean, no? Do you have the heart to deny a pregnant woman the one thing she craves? You don't crave massages, he replied dryly. You're pretending. She clutched her chest dramatically. Pretending? This is serious. The baby wants it. Now he looked at her fully, his gaze sharp with disbelief. Your baby craves a foot massage? She nodded without missing a beat.
Exactly.
Who am I to deny my child's needs? He exhaled slowly, as though summoning patience. If you need a massage, tell one of the maids. Not me. Amanda's lips curved into a sly smile. But the baby craves it from her father. Jae-young froze. His jaw tightened. It's not the baby's feet that want a massage. It's yours. Her eyes widened, filling with sudden tears. You don't understand anything about pregnancy, she muttered, sniffling. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the room. Then, with a resigned sigh, he set the laptop aside. Sit down. Instead, Amanda stretched out on the couch beside him, tossing her legs over his lap with a grin. Better position. He glared down at her, but she wiggled her toes insistently. And so, the Lord of Shadows, feared by many, found himself massaging Amanda's feet. Her face melted into pure bliss. Ah, see? This is what I'm talking about. You're a natural. His hands paused mid-motion. Don't push your luck. But Amanda wasn't done. Her eyes opened, studying him closely. Tell me something. Why didn't you just have a woman you loved give you an heir? Wouldn't that have been easier? His fingers stilled, his face unreadable. Because I don't love any woman. Amanda tilted her head, searching his face. So cold. He glanced at her sharply. You're not allowed to ask me personal questions. She smirked, her voice light but her gaze piercing. But you just answered one of my personal questions. The corner of his mouth twitched, whether in irritation or reluctant amusement. Amanda couldn't tell. Jae-young wondered who exactly was losing control in this strange arrangement, him or her. The afternoon sun spilled through the tall windows, painting the room in soft gold. Amanda leaned against the frame, licking her ice cream slowly, her belly rounded beneath her dress. For once, she looked peaceful, content. But then her gaze drifted downward, to the street just beyond the mansion walls. Her ice cream slipped from her hand and splattered on the floor. There he was, her father. His shirt neatly tucked in, his posture humble. But Amanda knew better. He was holding up a poster, her picture. He shoved it at a stranger on the street, his lips moving, his eyes sharp, searching. Her chest clenched. She slammed the window shut, locked it, and staggered back, her breath coming in short gasps. Tears filled her eyes, spilling before she could stop them. She paced the room, clutching her chest, sobbing. A maid hurried in. "Lady Amanda? What's wrong? Are you in pain? Should I call the doctor?" Amanda shook her head violently, but the tears only fell harder. She couldn't speak, only walked in frantic circles, her hands trembling. The maid panicked and rushed out. Moments later, the door burst open. Jae-young strode in, his dark eyes instantly locking on her trembling form. "What happened?" His voice was low, urgent. Amanda wiped her face with shaking hands. I saw him, my father. He's down the street, showing people my photo." Her voice cracked. "He's looking for me." Jae-young's jaw tightened, his presence suddenly larger, heavier. "Tell me everything." She bit her lip, then forced the words out, the ones she had buried for years. "He always beat me. I stayed because I told myself he was still my father. But that day, her voice shook. He tried to force himself on me. He wanted to rape me. So I hit a bottle on his head and ran." Her breaths came too fast, her chest heaving. "He must be furious. He'll kill me if he finds me. He'll..." "Stop." The single word froze her in place. Jae-young crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her into his arms. For the first time, the Lord of Shadows held her, not out of duty, not out of obligation, but out of instinct. He wrapped her tightly against his chest, one hand on her back, the other steadying her head as if shielding her from the world. He patted her slowly, firmly, until her sobs quieted. His voice was steady, like iron wrapped in velvet. "Your father will never step foot inside this mansion. Do you hear me? Never." Amanda clung to him, her tears soaking his shirt, her trembling easing with each word. He tilted her chin up just enough for her to see the promise in his eyes. "For what he's done to you, he will be arrested. Years of abuse. Attempted rape. He'll rot behind bars where he belongs or beaten up by my men." Amanda's lips parted, her eyes searching his face. And for the first time, she believed safety wasn't just a dream. It was standing right in front of her, holding her like she mattered. Another night, Amanda lay curled on Jae-young's bed, her breathing still uneven from crying. She hadn't been the sassy and friendly pregnant woman everyone knows in the mansion. Everyone in the mansion except Jae-young admitted they missed that part of her, but recently she always wanted to be alone for the past 2 weeks thinking of her father. But this night, she was sleeping in his room. Jae-young sat beside her, watching her chest rise and fall as she tried to steady herself. When she shifted restlessly, he moved closer. Without a word, he slipped behind her, one strong arm pulling her gently into his chest. His body curved around hers, holding her like a shield. Amanda stiffened for a moment, then melted into him, exhaustion pulling her deeper. Jae-young rested his chin near the crown of her head, the faint, sweet scent of her hair drifting upward. His eyes traced the curve of her lashes, the delicate lines of her nose, the softness of her lips. He hadn't allowed himself to notice before, but there it was, unmistakable. She was beautiful, not just in appearance, but in the strange resilience etched into every feature. Long after she drifted into deep sleep, he remained awake, staring at her in silence, his arm firm around her as if daring the world to try and take her away again. The next morning, steel returned to his voice. He summoned his men into the courtyard. "Find him," he commanded, his gaze like ice. "Amanda's father. Search his house, the city, every alley. Bring him to me, alive." His orders were law, and within minutes, the shadows of the Lord spread through the city like a net. But 20 hours later, his top lieutenant returned, head bowed. "My lord, we searched everywhere. His home, his usual bars, even the outskirts. He's gone. No trace." Jae-young's fingers tightened around the armrest of his chair. "Gone."
Yes.
It's as if he vanished overnight. Jae-young leaned back slowly, his expression unreadable. "No one disappears without reason. Keep searching. If he's hiding, drag him out. If someone took him, I want to know who." In the stillness of the mansion, Amanda hummed softly to herself upstairs, trying to distract her mind with herself. And Jae-young, watching her laugh faintly in the distance, wondering where her abusive father ran to. The mall was buzzing, neon lights spilling across glass windows as Amanda trailed behind Jae-young, her swollen belly slowing her steps. He walked ahead like a man on a mission, one hand tucked in his pocket, the other carrying her shopping bags with effortless strength. Amanda puffed out her cheeks. "Slow down, Lord of Shadows. I'm not one of your soldiers." He stopped instantly, waiting for her, but his face remained cool. "You should walk faster. It's good for the baby." Amanda rolled her eyes, catching up. "MMHM. And here I thought this trip was about me shopping, not your training regimen." They stopped in front of a baby boutique. Inside, soft blues and whites decorated the displays, tiny suits, shoes, blankets. Jae-young walked in first, immediately heading toward the boys' section. Amanda frowned. "You didn't even look around the girls' section." "Who said I want a baby girl?" he replied firmly, picking up a small navy onesie with golden buttons. "I want an heir. It's a boy." Amanda blinked at him. "We should get a scan done to know the sex." "You should have done that in your second trimester. Do I need to tell you everything or do everything for you?" "You are so irresponsible, Amanda," he said bluntly. "Don't you dare call me that if you think it's easy. You should have carried your heir yourself," she shot at him. "Your mood swing is killing me. Take simple corrections and stop acting up." He glanced at her unfazed. "I know it's a boy." "Good. Maybe you should continue with the shopping. I'm leaving." She walked out of the mall. Jae-young exhaled slowly, as if she were testing the last of his patience. "Pregnant women are so hard to deal with," he whispered to his security guards behind him and followed her. The weekend air was unnervingly still. The mansion, usually crawling with guards, was quieter. Most of the men had been dismissed for routine rotations. Amanda waddled happily through the hall, her palm pressed against her round belly. She had been waiting all morning for the delivery. The baby crib she'd insisted on, the soft, cream-colored one with hand-carved edges, was finally here. The bell rang. She rushed to the door, excitement bubbling in her chest. But when she swung it open, her smile froze. The delivery man stood with his helmet on. Too still. Too silent. Then he pulled a gun, the cold barrel glinting in the light. Amanda's heart stopped. Her knees weakened. She barely had time to gasp before the man stepped inside and locked the door behind him. The helmet came off. Her world collapsed. It was Mr. Simon. Her father's cruel eyes scanned her swollen belly, and for a second even he seemed shocked. Then came the laughter, loud, bitter, cruel. "You foolish girl," he spat. "You thought you could run from me? From your father? Look at you, pregnant like some filthy whore." Tears streamed down Amanda's face. She stumbled back, her arms instinctively wrapping around her stomach. "Stay away from me," she screamed, her voice breaking. "Somebody help." A bodyguard appeared instantly, his gun raised. "Drop the weapon." But Mr. Simon sneered and fired. The guard collapsed in front of Amanda, blood spreading across his chest. She screamed, her body trembling violently. In a blur, Simon's hand shot forward, his fingers wrapping around her neck. He slammed her back against the wall, his breath reeking of alcohol. "Let's go home, my sweet daughter," he hissed, pressing the gun against her temple. "You don't belong here." Amanda sobbed, her nails digging into his wrist. "Jae-young," she screamed desperately. "Jae-young." Simon yanked her hair, jerking her head back. "Shut up, or I'll paint this floor with your brains." Her chest rose in frantic heaves, panic clawing at her throat. Then suddenly, a gush of warm fluid trickled down her legs. Her water broke. The pain hit instantly, ripping through her body. She collapsed forward, clutching her stomach, screaming in agony. What's happening?" Simon barked, momentarily thrown. "Jae-young." Amanda cried again, her voice hoarse, tears streaking her cheeks. Then Jae-young appeared, charging down the stairs, his gun drawn, his face twisted with rage. "Step away from her," his voice thundered. Simon pressed the gun harder against Amanda's head, dragging her to her feet. "Another step and she dies." Jae-young froze. Every muscle in his body coiled. His eyes flickered to Amanda, her face contorted with pain. "Jay, it hurts," she sobbed, doubling over. Simon shoved her harder. "Panic now. Shut up. You're coming with me." And then, before he could pull the trigger,
Bang.
a single shot rang out. Simon's body jerked violently, his eyes wide in shock as blood spread across his back. He crumpled to the ground. Behind him stood Jae Young's manager, his smoking gun still raised. Amanda collapsed to the floor, writhing in pain, her cries filling the mansion. Jae Young dropped his weapon and ran to her, scooping her trembling body into his arms. "Hold on, Amanda," he whispered fiercely, his heart pounding in his chest. "Don't you dare leave me. Don't you dare." With his men surrounding them, Jae Young carried her out, his jaw tight, his arms unshaking despite the storm inside him. The car door slammed, tires screeched, and as Amanda screamed again, clutching her stomach, they raced toward the hospital. The cries of a newborn echoed through the sterile hospital room, high-pitched, raw, and full of life. Amanda lay back on the bed, drenched in sweat, her chest heaving as tears streaked her face. The nurse carefully placed the tiny bundle in her arms. Amanda's heart twisted. A girl. Her daughter's soft skin carried a warm glow, her tiny fingers curling against Amanda's chest. The baby's eyes squeezed shut, her mouth forming small gasps as she rooted instinctively for comfort. Amanda's lips trembled. She stroked the child's delicate cheek, but her thoughts spiraled in dread. Jae Young wanted a son, an heir, a boy strong enough to inherit his empire. The door opened. Jae Young entered, his expression unreadable, his dark eyes flicking to Amanda before landing on the fragile bundle in her arms. Amanda's throat tightened. She looked up at him, guilt washing over her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He stepped closer, his brow furrowing. "Sorry? For what? I couldn't give you a boy." Her voice cracked, her grip tightening around the baby as if afraid he would reject her. "I failed you." For a heartbeat, silence hung heavy. Then Jae Young reached out, his large hand steady as he gently took the baby from her arms. He stared down at the tiny face wrapped in soft blankets. His lips parted, then curved into something rare, something warm. A smile. His voice dropped to a hushed wonder. "The most beautiful little thing I've ever seen." Amanda blinked, her tears spilling anew. Jae Young chuckled softly, rocking the child with surprising ease. "Yes, I wanted a boy." But seeing her now, he lifted his eyes to Amanda, his smile lingering, genuine and unguarded. "I'm the happiest father in the world." He lowered his head and pressed a feather-light kiss to the baby's forehead. The nurse asked quietly, "Have you thought of a name?" Jae Young's gaze softened. He whispered Arya, a name that carried grace and strength, a name that would be remembered. Amanda's tears of sadness turned into tears of joy. She leaned back, watching the man she once feared cradle their daughter like the most precious jewel. Her chest swelled with warmth, hope, and something she couldn't quite name yet, but it felt dangerously close to love. The golden sunset poured into the living room, painting everything in warm light. Amanda sat on the rug, laughing as little Arya crawled unsteadily toward a toy. Then the door opened. Jae Young stepped in, tall and composed, but his eyes softened instantly at the sight of Amanda and their daughter. Arya squealed and crawled straight toward him. He bent down, scooping her up with ease, his lips brushing her hair. Amanda stood, crossing her arms with a smile. "She only crawls that fast when she sees you." "I think I've been replaced." Jae Young smirked, his gaze flicking from Arya to Amanda. "You've always been jealous too easily." Amanda gasped playfully. "Excuse me?" Before she could fire back, he strode forward. Arya nestled in one arm and pulled Amanda against him with his free hand. She stumbled into his chest, her breath catching. His shirt was unbuttoned at the top, revealing just enough to make her pulse quicken. Amanda tilted her head up to meet his gaze, but his eyes had already dropped to her lips. The tension between them ignited. "Jae Young," she whispered. He didn't answer. He lowered his head, brushing his lips against hers in a slow, deliberate kiss that deepened the moment she sighed into him. His hand slid to her waist, holding her firmly, while Amanda's fingers clutched at his shirt, pulling him closer. Arya made a soft sound, breaking the kiss with laughter between them. Amanda's cheeks flushed, but Jae Young only smirked, his forehead resting against hers. "I don't care about the shadows anymore," he murmured, voice husky. "You two are my world now." Amanda's eyes filled with tears she didn't bother to hide. He kissed her again, softer this time, lingering. When he pulled back, a mischievous spark lit his eyes. "And if you want," his lips brushed her ear, "we can have another baby. The proper way, not through contracts and artificial insemination, but through love." Amanda gasped, blushing furiously, swatting at his chest.
Yeah.
"You're impossible." He chuckled, tightening his arm around her, kissing her temple. Amanda leaned into him, her heart racing, while Arya clapped her tiny hands in delight. And in that moment, with love pressed between them and their daughter in their arms, it no longer mattered where they came from. What mattered was the forever they were building together.
The end.
I hope you enjoyed this story.